One.
Hey, whether you ballin' or broke, wanna find the most high, just follow the smoke. Everybody wanna fly, but nobody wanna know how that whole thing started. Whenever you were born, yeah, go back farther. Deep in the jungles of the Ganges River, 2000 BC, see Hindus and Sikhs, shitloads of weed. Very first plant cultivated for the fabric. And anytime you learned that the people started dancing, medicine man, put
Couple
the
of
people in the
nobodies.
trance that they transported west, brought by brown farmers, shared with the Rastas, and said it's called ganja. Greeks and the Turks traded gold for dope.
Blue Scala is lighting it up. Yeah, for those that don't know, that is the Blue Scholars featuring. The name of the song is Tommy Chong. Not 100% sure why. Was it just because Tommy Chong smoked a lot of weed? You know,
probably, almost certainly.
Name your song about weed, about Tommy
Right?
Chong? The fuck?
Yes, of course you would, wouldn't you?
Eh.
Yeah.
It's a sweet ass song. I highly recommend it if you haven't heard it.
Right, we're trying to see.
It's on YouTube.
We're trying to pick a song, intro song. I still think we got to find something that's like public record. There's definitely.
I don't see why these guys would have a problem with their music being promoted.
It's not them, man. It's like their lawyers or agents. There's machinery and works.
Right,
if they're
right.
signed to a label, the label would definitely.
Yeah, the label
fucking-
come after you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They came after.
All right, well,
Butters
let's
and
just
shit.
stick with like independent artists, man. Like I want to change up the song like every week. Open with somebody like local.
I like that. We definitely need to
put
look.
Perkins on here. I'm sure he wouldn't mind me promoting,
Not
and
at
spreading
all.
the word of Perkins. Although I don't really think he needs to be spread anymore. He's,
Right? Yeah, I think people know.
People know.
Although,
I mean,
you never know.
he works at all the festivals around town. But anyway, we digress.
That's right. Welcome to Couple of Nobodies. A Couple of Nobodies.
Welcome to the show,
Depending on how many, I don't even know what you call those little tiny articles of speech.
What?
Of and a and whatever those little, they're probably each different things. See, and now I'm letting you know just how educated
That's
the
no way to
opinions
start
are.
a podcast,
You're about to get,
man.
I don't know
They
my
have
language.
to figure out how stupid you are as you go. You can't just hit them with that off of Jump Street.
Boom. No, let's let them know. Now they're in. on
Yeah,
the secret.
everybody, strap yourselves in because we are about to get ignorant on your asses.
Yeah. Somewhat informed. We are.
Somewhat, yeah.
We were educated by professional educators, so
No.
I mean, not to brag, but
Not to brag right
it's kind of like the coolest thing in the fucking world.
Dude,
not to
yeah,
brag.
It's not, it's kind of a big deal.
It's like spending a bunch of time and money.
They put that on these
like getting nothing
marathon
for it.
shirts this last marathon. It was really lame.
The shirt was.
Yeah, the shirt that you get for running the Columbus Marathon.
What
It
was
says
it?
on there, Columbus Marathon. Yeah, it has a number whether you did like the half or the full 13.1 or 26.2, and then next to it says it's kind of a big deal. It's like
It says
wow,
that on it.
yeah, it says that
Oh,
on it. Yeah,
God.
it's like you don't want to wear it.
It's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, it's kind
Yeah,
of a big
that's
deal.
lame.
Yeah.
I mean, you're already kind of pushing the hey, I'm just happen to be wearing this shirt from this thing that I went and did. Like you're already like showing off the fact that you did go and do it.
I was just
And
writing
then
big
it's
letters
like,
underneath it. What?
it's kind of a big deal. Step, son.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, you want to give any kind of intro / explanation of
Let's kill the music here.
the project?
The project. A couple of nobodies, everybody. We are just... I don't even know, man. Do you really want to start this like that?
Yeah, man. Sure.
Let the people know what we're about.
Because we need to
Interested
just step
third
into it.
parties, man. Or fifth parties, or, whatever.
Interested
end
parties.
of- yeah,
Ooh, that should be
interested
the
parties.
name,
There we
man.
go.
Interested parties.
Ha 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 ha. I like it,
That
man.
could be real cool.
I
Damn.
like it. I'm not opposed to changing the name.
We haven't posted anything
Yeah,
yet.
that's a good point. Well, I fucking bought domain names and shit for this thing.
Right.
Locked down the website. But I suppose that doesn't matter.
I
15
like
bucks
Couple
a
of Nobodies. They're both good.
Yeah. Everybody I tell, when I talk about, like, hey, I've started a podcast, and like, what's it called? Couple of Nobodies. Oh, that's cool.
Right?
You know?
Yeah, I think it sounds good. Interested parties is cool, though. Maybe we should do that party idea as a separate podcast of its own
or a
thing and just
segment?
call it intimate or interested parties.
I could
Yeah,
do
that could be cool too.
Yep, there's that text. Sorry, dude, took the keys. My bad.
Work's never happy when you walk home with the keys. I've done it. Anyone who has keys at work has done it. Work keys.
What's it supposed to get down to? It's getting down to 32. Fuck me.
Anyways,
shit.
This is not a weather report podcast. It's about we are just interested, self-educating people who are used to disagree more. I feel like we agree, or at least find more things that we agree with as time goes on.
We still disagree a lot.
Oh, yeah. We had definitely come from different starting points. But we had always managed to have lively but amiable conversations. No one ever got mad. We don't fight, you know.
There have been a couple of times I got kind of pissed at you. But I don't know.
Oh, well, yeah, but it's not like we weren't going to,
like...
it's not like it was an actual, like, fight. Like,
Nah,
we were going to, like, beat each other
dude,
up or
are you
break
fucking
stuff.
kidding me?
Yeah, like, come on.
Yeah. No, that's...
My point is more valid than that.
That is one thing I would like to set up as, like, the premise of this thing, is that you can talk politics and not get mad at each other.
Right.
This podcast will be primarily political, but we're gonna have fun with it. You know, that's a big problem. I feel that most people don't listen to news anymore or any of that stuff because it's so goddamn stiff.
Right.
You know, there are interested parties out there.
Well, that's
that, just dudes. You know what I mean?
Interested parties out there. You just said it.
Didn't even mean to. My bad.
See, that is a good one. We got to do something with that. Sell it to somebody.
Well, maybe we'll just have to incorporate it. Anyway, yeah. Like, if you sit down and actually listen to, like I listen to a lot of NPR, this guy over here listens to a lot of Rush, and all of it.
Rush is entertaining, though.
Rush is semi-entertaining, but, I mean, that's just an angry old man sitting on a soapbox fucking yelling shit.
Not at all. He loves every minute of it. He's having a great time, and he's making fun of people. How long has
he been doing it?
Like 20 years or something? I don't know.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Like, most of his deal is just making fun of the other side,
Right.
He calls it
Republicrats or
whatever, like silly things. I think that actually comes from The Simpsons, but he using what does he say? Well, I can't fucking remember it. He uses absurdity to expose the absurd.
Right. Like Glenn Beck. Oh, you ever listen to that guy?
Oh, yeah, he's great radio, man. Just to listen to.
I've listened to a little bit of his stuff, man. He always just seems to just cross that line of like, oh, man, I can hear how much of a cunt you are.
He cries on every episode. His thing is he is like an addictive personality. He's a recovering alcoholic, and now he's just addicted to, like, politics.
Isn't he a converted Mormon as well?
He is, yeah. He's a convert to Mormonism. Like, I'm sure through his... getting over his alcoholism.
I really can't stand behind a full-grown adult that converts to Mormonism. While Mormons are, by and large, nice people, you know what I mean? Like, people I've met, that are Mormon are generally really nice, and the examples I see out there in the media, really awesome people. You always see them helping out in disasters and all kinds of shit.
Well, that's the only reason they convert people. It's because it's for the family values of the thing. Right, there's an active church life or whatever. And if you're like a Christian person, like you were raised in a church, and you're like church shopping, basically, is what you do. And they're like active.
Which sect do I want to settle down in?
I mean, especially if you're not a strict, like I can't think of the term of it, but when you believe that every word of the Bible is the literal truth, like if you're not one of those people,
fundamentalist Christians that they're just like this is the word.
No, I know people that believe that, and they're some of my best friends and people I respect a lot, and like people I love and are great people. Yeah. But what I'm saying is, if you're not, if you don't believe every literal word of the Bible, then like you really can kind of shop around for churches, because if the exact words of what they're preaching to you don't really care about, it's like the general message of be nice to other people, then the rest of it doesn't really, then that part doesn't really matter. All you really care about is like the church community and the people you're going into. Of course, I'm pulling this all out of my ass because I was not raised in the church at all. I'm unbaptized. I got a one-way ticket, man. Well,
I look at it as, while the church, does have good values, the family values thing, and I do appreciate the hell out of that. You can see a lot of problems, there in society that spawn from a lack of these values, and you can see the draw, where it comes from. but at the same time, you're shilling, this thing that is like, it's one of the poisons of the world. Organized religion.
I wouldn't go
It
that
divides
far
people
at
in
all.
a
No
bad way
It's
throughout the course
good.
of history. Hold on, you cannot deny the impact of religion. I mean,
Right.
look at what's going on in the Middle East right now, in Africa right now, and all
Right.
over the world. And then
But-
you have like a lot of people in America that look at everybody, outside of, well, maybe not their faith, but definitely America.
I think
Well, and
it's-
that's not everybody. I don't want to use generalized terms.
I think it's just whatever excuse was around, If it weren't religion, it would be something else. Oh, man, there's an Ohioism. If it weren't religion.
If it weren't for religion.
If it weren't religion, it'd have been something else. Seriously, though, I mean, it's not like...
Why? Why does it have to be something
'Cause
else?
we
I think
fight
we're
about-
moving into an age.
Because we mostly humans fight about land and territory, and they use religion as bullshit motivation to do
We
those
have
things.
historically.
But it's not like they wouldn't have gone and wanted the land or the resources.
We're moving into
They
an
just wouldn't
area
have been
where
able
we're
to
starting
say that Zeus wanted me to do it. They'd have to convince people that we need the water and whatever they're
Right,
going
they
after.
used
Which is
like
easy to
crazy
do for
trickery
city
back in the
states.
day, and it's bled through the ages.
Well, not so.
you know.
No, not even, because back in the day, people were closer. Like, people lived a much shorter and much more violent, existence. They were totally willing to be like, yeah, we should go take those people's water just for the sake of being able to get the water.
Right.
You don't have to be like the sky gods want us to do it. But like later, as you get more metropolitan and people have other distractions in their lives, they don't want to risk all that shit. They're living a better life. You've got more to lose.
Well, you
You're
can't
less
say
likely
it-
to go and fight.
I mean, it goes back before
need
religion, man.
convincing.
You're talking. This is just basic human nature.
I think
like
there's been.
as
I think
being
religion.
animals.
I think religion is basic human nature. I think there will always be
Well,
things
they're talking
we can't.
about the aspects of humanity, more morality. You know what I mean? These things that we've realized.
Oh,
Aren't necessarily animalistic, because when you look at nature, all other animals besides human beings, including other primates, you don't see a lot of emotional reaction. Human beings are unique in the emotional states.
I think that's a misconception. I feel like I've been hearing more and more about them, like at least certainly the apes. Other apes have very complex social structures and emotional
That's a good
reactions
point.
to things and stuff like that.
All right, I may have misspoke.
But I don't know. But that might be purely an ape thing, which is still considering. I don't know. Dogs.
Yeah,
I would bet dogs, because I would imagine any pack
All right,
animal
that we know of. I mean, there could be some next
For
level shit
certain.
going on,
Right.
and means of communication going on in animals that we aren't aware of. But as far as we can tell, ours are really complex and actually shown. I mean, if you were to objectively step back as an outsider to this planet and look at the way human beings interact compared to other animals,
All right.
it's pretty extreme.
Well, and we would recognize those feelings and emotions, and we would try and communicate them to you as well. Like, I mean, I guess dogs do, sort of. Like, if they're pissed, they'll let you know they're pissed. Like, you can tell when an animal, a pet. Although I wonder how much of that is just us
Those are
imprinting on
basic
them.
instincts. Fear, aggression. Those are very animalistic instincts. But like jealousy,
Right.
that kind of stuff. But the human beings are a bit more complex. We take those basic human or basic
Right.
animalistic ideologies and we broaden them and we get
Right.
deeper
More
into them.
complex
You know what I mean?
versions
We
of
have
those
better
emotions.
ability to communicate them.
We have better
I mean,
capacity to think about them, too.
I'm sure a dog would express itself in different ways if it had anything other than barking and
Right, and biting and all the body language that they use.
Different levels
Scent,
of that.
well, they do use those. They use a lot of communication that we're not picking up on.
That's a
too,
good point. They
but-
have that sixth sense thing going on.
Well, and there's like body language too that we
Well,
don't pick
that's-
up on and shit.
Where I'm coming from, and maybe that's the problem with humanity, is that we have this gigantic cerebral cortex that surrounds a pretty basic structure of a brain stem that all animals, vertebrates anyways, share.
Right.
Everybody has like the same basic structure at the center of their brain that powers the machine.
Yeah, your
and
body
the cerebral
moving.
cortex allows for that abstract thought. It allows us to be creative and break things down and
planning.
figure shit out. Well, I guess. Well, not necessarily. Part of it happens. You know what I mean? A lot of shit does go down in the brainstem. I mean, dogs have problem-solving ability. A lot of other animals do as well.
Yeah, but not as complex and shit. Like,
Yeah, exactly. But that's what I'm saying. Like the cerebral cortex kind of enhances the natural brainstem ability. Anyway, where the fuck was I going with that? something about brainstems.
Oh, greater communication.
Right. Well, yeah, that's where I was going.
Because you're talking about dog's sixth sense.
Well, when they don't have that cerebral cortex, that higher level thinking, blasting over top of, your basic, animalistic functions. You know what I mean? You can tap into that sixth sense easier. Kind of like the Rogan's thing with the isolation tank. You quiet the mind, you quiet all the sensory input, and it allows you to tap into deeper things.
Oh, I see. So the basic.
But that's kind of a parallel to it. It's not
your basic body moving center.
When you don't have complex thought, going blasting through your head, you're tapped into more what's going on in nature. You're responding to stimuli. And it's very basic. It's very straightforward. And
but isn't that the opposite of? But that's the opposite of the sensory deprivation. That's zero stimuli, just your brain.
Right. That's what I said. It was like kind of a parallel thought where you block out, the complex thought. If you don't have a cerebral cortex, you block out the complex thought, and it allows you those things to operate. When you block out our sensors, with a cerebral cortex involved, it blocks out all that sensory input. It allows the cerebral cortex to thrive. Right. It's kind of like the inverse.
Yeah. Keep your basic functions healthy, I guess. But I want
to get one of those things, man. They sound.
I want to try it too. I definitely want to go to one.
You think there'd be a market here in this town for them?
Probably, with all the
people
hippie scene.
Get on. We have an email address set up, ACoupleOfNobodies@gmail. Hop on there, shoot us an email. If you would like to see a float lab with sensory deprivation tanks in the Central Ohio area, give us a shout.
And if you know of one, like
I looked, there aren't
around here. There aren't any.
No. Oh, like if you were to incorporate that with some kind of like a massage parlor,
or
a yoga studio, you know what I mean?
Kind of health food store or something,
right? All four, do it all. Like this is your wellness center.
Oh my God! Yeah, we should invent some.
I'm copywriting that idea. I see one pop up around town. Fucking suing you.
Yeah, we should definitely do something.
I'm so sick of that. I have fantastic ideas all the time, and then like a month later, I see it pop up.
We just got to think of what do you call it? It's like it's a homeopathic mall or whatever. What's a cooler name for that?
The what?
Hippie healing. Just like a mall that's like all, have like a herbal healing and have like
I don't know what can I Google
all kinds
here?
Of shit.
That would show me what's going on in Columbus. Columbus Wellness? No, that's going to
Google like Columbus Sensory Deprivation Center. Anyways, I think that's probably a lot like the runner's high, because when you're running like that, it's kind of the same thing. Instead of blocking off all your sensory perception, you're kind of keeping it busy, or at least your body. Hey, kitty.
Meow.
Mousie's on the podcast. All right, though, dead air over there. Quit your Googling.
What? I'm looking at this shit, and there's
nobody.
At least on Google Maps here, we get when I type in Columbus sensory deprivation tanks, I get Byers, Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, Ram.
Well,
Columbus
of course.
Alive. That's not good, and that's Google Maps. Let's see. We got Gravity Spa.
Why wouldn't you expect to get that? It makes perfect sense.
What is this Gravity Spa? What's going on? This guy didn't make himself Google searchable? What the fuck? After singing the flotation tank twice, analysis, I'm obsessed with it.
Blah, 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 blah. While you're looking that up.
Beaver Creek, Ohio. Where the fuck is that?
Isn't that the name of the town on South Park? No, that's Beaverton. The Beaverton Dam that breaks. Global warming episode.
Where the fuck is this shit? Oh my God, no! This guy is running this shit out of his apartment.
He's got a sensory deprivation chamber.
It's outside Dayton.
The guy's a murderer. You go there, he kills you.
For real.
People go there to die.
I'm throwing up a warning about
call the police. Be like, hey, go check this guy. He's got this sensory deprivation chamber that he locks people into.
GravitySpa.com, although he's got a nice little happy
Gravity
picture.
Spa.
I don't know. This guy could be a member of the Death Squad community. There's the dude that runs Tales from the Hard Side. It's a podcast I found out about through the Death Squad Network. Yeah, he's out of Dayton.
Tales from the... Oh, wait. You think
Tales
you
from
were
the Hard Side,
seem
man.
to
Check
remember
that
you
guy
telling
out.
me
He's pretty
about-
cool.
Seem to remember you telling me about a dating one. Let's jump on to kind of a re-inaugural podcast. Should we talk about our points of view at all or something?
I think people figure it out as we go. If you haven't already.
Right.
I mean, at least you
Okay,
get a
if you
line
had to
going.
pick... I'll say this. If I had to pick a label, like had to, gun to my head, I would say libertarian.
I say fuck labels.
Yeah.
It's really annoying when you start, putting yourself in a label.
Uh-huh.
You are assigning yourself to a lot of things, that may not necessarily, be cut and dry for you. But because you fly under that label, that flag.
People will make those
yeah,
assumptions.
exactly. And all
Right.
they have to do is hear you make one argument about one thing, and they automatically start
Right.
sticking you in a category.
Although that's part of this thing. Let's hear people with those labels talking. Maybe, like, I'm a Tea Partier too, and, like, people think that we're all crazy hillbilly, like super racist or something.
You're not?
Yeah, not today.
Nah, you're a real cool dude, man. That's what I like.
Yay! Yeah. Aw, you're a cool dude too.
Hey, man.
Yeah, though. So, like, I think part of the point of this thing should be to kind of shatter those ideas.
Right. I mean,
And you gotta, like, some people. I mean, humans label things. It's like part of how we understand shit. So I totally get what you're saying, and like labels are broad, and people try to use them too much as like, I know everything about you because this label applies to you, but it's like, man, there's a lot of variation inside that group, man.
Right. That's why I like talking, politics so much. It's one of the reasons that inspired me to start doing this thing. Like it's everybody I know, everybody I interact with, I end up talking politics, and they always end up with the same answer. It's, dude, I can't get a read on you because you're all over the place.
Right.
Because once they get deeper down the rabbit hole in my fucking, rants, it's like,
yeah, I've been
what the
surprised.
hell?
I've been surprised, certainly.
I mean, you don't have to be cut and dry, man.
Right.
I say you should have full choice to kill. Yeah, this will be, an example of extremes, Full choice to, if you want to have an abortion, go have an abortion, but it's your call. It should be very legal.
Right.
But at the same time, you should be killing these motherfuckers that are shooting up schools.
Right. Yeah.
No trial, no jury.
Yeah, like,
put 15 rounds into their head as they're coming out the door. If they don't do it to themselves.
I struggle with a lot of that. Like, my instinct is to just let people be free, and like, people are generally good, and it'll all work out. But obviously, you need police forces. You need some protection.
We're monkeys, man. We're fucking higher primates.
Violence,
I think they hit that on the head.
Well, and violence is definitely, an innate part
of being an animal,
of human nature.
Of being an animal.
But at the same time, like, I mean, politically, yes, I don't want to make any laws about things, but like morally, I'm willing, I think, to judge. You know what I mean? Like, I'm willing to judge people morally and like espouse my morals, I guess, or I would be, but I think you shouldn't do that if you want to be in politics because you don't want to mix the two. People should be free to develop their own morals. Like, yeah, the government should probably like encourage certain morals if the majority of the society as a whole believes in them, but at the same time that causes problems too.
See, this is where I start getting into muddy waters, man. It starts getting weird because I do like the idea of freedom and choice and all that stuff, but at the same time you sit back and you look at extremist groups, out there that are raising a bunch of maladjusted people that become dangerous in certain circumstances.
Right.
You know what I mean? Being taught a bunch of wacky bullshit. I mean, you can bring this back to like an education kind of standpoint. Like, how do we set up systems where people are being taught everything, but at the same time, people should have the right to teach their kids whatever they want, and that's a weird double-edged sword you can't really get around.
I was just having a debate about education at a wedding, my sister's wedding, with this guy who is certainly a Democrat. I don't know if I would call him liberal or whatever, but and we were talking about that same thing, and I firmly believe in the voucher systems. I believe in putting as much market, allowing as much market pressures to come to bear on education as much as you can without, letting kids go to some dungeon to be tortured that they tell people is a school, or something. There needs to be some like inspection or oversight or whatever. But I think kids are so different. I think people are so different. I think people learn so different that you need to be able to have an organically evolving system that educates those people so that as people learn differently, the educational system can change with that, and they can have like a school for visual learners or a school for, audio learners or school for kids that have to write shit down or whatever.
I think the future is pods.
Right.
Little isolation pods where, the education flows at your pace individually. I mean, there's this, like a school still where everybody goes to socialize. Because
Sits in a pod.
That's the big important part of being in school is learning socializing. Learning how to act, around people. People that are generally homeschooled end up slightly socially inept. Or at least with, they take a few years to catch up, you know what I mean? But I mean, well, not necessarily. Maybe people that are homeschooled and, they don't just sit at home all day. They go out and do things, Boy Scouts or baseball or whatever, I
think the harm to society caused by socially awkward homeschoolers is much less than the harm that an unchanging, one-size-fits-all national bureaucracy.
Right. That's not working at all.
Not at all. Our kids are fucking stupid as shit. Did you go to public school?
Yeah, I did. I think I got a fantastic education.
I got a shit education.
Well, looking back on it, I got a skewed education. I mean, they taught me a lot of shit, but they taught me one side of a lot of shit.
Well, I'm fine with that. Like, I'm okay.
Well, that's at least history and what have you. Math, physics, chemistry. I got a fantastic education.
I'm okay with like with like high school being fairly national. Like having a national slant. That's fine. Like college, it should be that way, anyways. If you want to think more highly about stuff, you go to college and then you learn some of the other shit you didn't hear before.
Yeah, that was the big thing I walked away from college with, because here's the reality out there, kids,
Right.
Going to college doesn't guarantee you a job anymore. You know what I mean?
No.
That's the fallacy that we all went to school with. Nobody ever said anything to me about that. It's something I figured out as I went along.
I heard that by a bunch of people, but... it's still
it was a package deal that your counselors, your teachers, through high school were slamming in your face. You got to go to college. You're going to get a good job if you go to college. You can get a job if you don't go to college, but it's going to be a dead end bullshit job.
What was that?
Guess what? I'm still in a dead end bullshit job. That's what a college degree gets you. It gets you a higher level dead end bullshit job. Well, if you really want to do something in this world, you got to go out there and you got to fucking do it. Like I've been listening to this book, The War of Art. One of the last Rogan podcasts, Stephen Pressfield, I believe his name is. I'm gonna have to look that up. Fuck.
Anyways, what's the gist of the book?
Just the book. It's pretty much a self-help book, or as George Carlin would love to say, that's just help.
Right.
Yeah, but basically, it's for the creative mind. What is stopping most creative people from doing the things they want to do. And you'd be surprised how many people out there have really cool, awesome, creative shit going on in their heads, and they don't just follow through on it because of A, B, C, and D. It doesn't break it down that strictly, but and it's a little wacky. I could see a lot of people looking at it from the outside and like, but he's making analogies here. A lot of things fall into this resistance category. Resistance is like this broad ideology of things that get in your way. It's very kind of Tony Robbins kind of self-help kind of thing, or help. Anyway, I think it's cool, man. Like it's you think it a lot, but it's cool to have somebody else out there that is talking you through it and is like, yeah, these are the things that everything you're thinking is fucking you up. Yeah, it really is. And here are some ideas on how you can work past it, And I was one of those people that sat back and looked at those kind of seminars like these are weak people that can't figure it out. You know what I mean? What the hell's wrong with them?
Right.
Don't be such
a hater.
No, not such a hater. Well, just don't have such an ego that you think that you're above it.
Right.
What I mean? That I don't need help. Fuck you, dude. Just you never know.
It's the people that take the specific, because it's all like the same basic like message, it's the people that take whatever guy they heard it from as like the gospel and like every word he said, literally true. It's like everyone's kind of.
There are a lot of sheep in that audience.
Yes.
You know what I mean? People are like, "Oh my God, I heard
like
this guy changed my life, and I believe everything he says."
And you can definitely get some good advice from him,
Like
but it's
yes,
all
people,
kind of the same
the
stuff.
people that are going around saying yes to everything is like, come on, I could see that having some serious consequences for your life.
Was that ever a real thing though, or wasn't that just the Jim Carrey movie?
No. I heard some people talking
that
about
was
it.
a real thing.
Yeah, it was a real thing.
Oh man, I'm getting a beer.
Grab me one too, please.
Oh, will do. Now I gotta pee though.
Oh Jesus. Well, take a piss and we'll come back. Pause and hold on a second, people.
Fuck, what were we talking about? Do you remember?
I have no idea.
This is gonna be
horrible.
Bring back.
Horrible start. Sorry, folks. Yeah. So, anyway.
Oh, have you already started?
Yeah.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, dick.
Yeah, so I pissed and grabbed a beer, and we forgot what the hell we were talking about.
Start looking at houses. Yeah, that's how you know you're getting old, man. You start looking at houses. Like, that's a piece of property I would love to own.
Oh, I know,
I rented
man.
for so long, man. Like, the idea of owning something.
Yeah,
just,
like, it's part of my spiel about why rural and city people are different, because rural people tend to own instead of rent, but what that means is that they have a more real connection to the labor, the idea of that your labor and your property are the same thing. Like, a lot of people are all for labor rights, but they don't feel the same about property rights. They're perfectly ready to take somebody's property to give to other people.
These days, like, particularly like in the Midwest, the huge ag farms will buy up property.
Oh, right.
And then, people in the sticks are, they're still laborers. Man.
Yeah, but
they work for the huge ag farm.
But most people aren't farming, man. Hardly anybody farms anymore. Like, the small town people all own their houses, and they watch their parents go to work to buy the house and the lawn, the property that they grew up on. They have a very real, visceral connection to that relationship between labor and property. Whereas I feel people in the city, it's like someone else is always taking their labor to pay off their property, because they're living in someone else's house paying rent. So they don't have as real or as long-term of a view of property. Property to them is like the stuff they have with you, but the stuff you have, you're constantly changing over. Your stuff gets old, you buy new stuff.
Right.
But like a house is like a long-term commitment. It's, I think it helps craft a different worldview. That and living in a city kind of requires some socialistic policies.
There's only so much land, man.
Tearing each other apart.
And not everybody can own. There are a bunch of fat cats, that pretty much own everything.
Well,
like Ohio State's, off-campus housing, like literally tens of thousands of homes, all around campus, the surrounding area, and it's all owned by like 5 companies.
Right.
I mean, those guys run that fucking
and it's
place.
All
pure profit, man. Like,
and
I was thinking about
vanity.
like that one apartment building that I was living in. Absolutely ridiculous. Like, this building could not have cost more than $1 million to make. You know what I mean?
Right, it was
maybe
like an
maybe
actual
2.
building.
It was like a 3-story apartment complex. 8 apartments per floor, 2-bedroom apartments. Total rent per apartment was, let's see here. Let's actually crunch the numbers here. Total rent for at least my apartment, and mine was a basement apartment, so it was low end. So I would say ours was like $800. I think the top was like $1,000, so we'll call it $900 per apartment times 8 times 3 equals that's $21,000 a month in rent they're pulling in.
Nice.
You know what I mean?
I wonder what the property taxes are in there. The cities have higher property taxes.
Well, times 12.
So it becomes
that one unit, that one building that they own pulls in $260,000 a year.
Well,
they did jack shit to that place. Was falling down.
But it becomes this vicious cycle where the taxes and the property taxes drive that. Granted, they're shitty people taking advantage of people, yes, but also having higher property taxes as you do in a city drives up, how much it costs for them to own those, even a shitty building, so that in turn it drives up how much you have to pay even just to live in a shitty building. And so you're hurting more, and so the more you're hurting, the more they have to tax people through property taxes to pay for the social programs that are causing you to have to pay more in the first place anyways.
It's a vicious cycle.
It is. It's like...
We're all fucked.
Eventually,
we're wrapped up in this, and there's no escape.
Right? Well, eventually Rome started going to war to secure the grain supplies that were its first social food program. Thank you, Gaius Gracchus, I believe, was the first to institute that. It was either him or Tiberius' brother. I can't remember which one. But, there's no... I think it's Milton Friedman has said this. I don't know if it's an original him or if he's quoting someone else. But, the idea that there are no solutions, there are only trade-offs. So any action the government is going to take, even if it's trying to alleviate poverty, is going to have, a counteraction.
Right.
And property taxes, there are lots of counter-reactions to that reality.
Well...
But at the same time, I think it's probably generally a good thing because a lot of the ancient cultures got into trouble when the nobles, the people who owned all the land, became so powerful enough that they started exempting themselves from the taxes.
Okay, you really have to start looking at how your local city spends their dollars.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I noticed it in Westerville, where I work sometimes. They have these little flower baskets. I think they actually have them in downtown Reynoldsburg, too. Little flower baskets that they hang from every lamppost down the street.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And they're baskets. These are flowers. They're perennials. Through the midsummer heat, they have to water those things every day. They have to pay somebody to go around and water these fucking things.
Not only that,
on
but
some kind of little...
pay for the water, too.
That's... peanuts, man. It's like a 200-gallon tank in the back of a truck. But still, the point is that they pay a guy to go around with a wand and a truck, for a couple hours and every day and water plants. You know what I mean? And it's little shit like that. That's just like one example, of how cities waste money. I remember driving to D.C. to see my brother, and we were driving through Maryland, on the highway, and there's it's Maryland, it's pretty wooded. And there's a huge median that's filled with forest, between the two sides of the highway. And for a 50-mile stretch, it seemed like there was this nude planted trees in this median, in the gaps. You know what I mean? Like, there were like little gaps through the median, that didn't have trees,
Yeah, like little U-turny
and
or
they're
like state
freshly
trooper park spots.
No. They were just gaps in the wilderness.
Oh.
So they spent taxpayer dollars.
Oh, planting
trees. I mean, you're talking about even at a wholesale price, $100 minimum per tree. I'm talking thousands of trees, because it went on for miles and miles and miles.
Like, give it 10 years, and the trees would have grown into that area anyways.
Naturally.
Maybe 20.
I mean?
It might have taken 50 years.
Not to mention they had to pay the people to go do it.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? Like, you take the cost of a tree. I work in landscaping, and the cost of a tree, it's 1.5 times that to install it.
It's like what I was talking to you about in the last one, which no one will hear, probably. But the baseline budgeting, it's like that's that kind of concept. The concept that, government just has to keep spending more. It's like, no, maybe it doesn't. Maybe you could just do shit better and let us keep more money. Like, the idea should be that you take as little as you possibly, or as you absolutely must. You should be super efficient and spend as little of our money so that we can take care of it ourselves, so that you don't have to do shit.
Well, I think they've seen over and over again that if left to our own devices, we won't take care of that shit.
Right. Well, fuck it, let people do their...
No, people are generally lazy. I mean, if you leave it up to people, if there's no gain in it...
No,
this
people
is a pure
are not...
I can't believe this is an idea that you don't clam onto. It's pure capitalistic idea. Where's the incentive? Besides, increasing the value of, the area that you're in. And, again... Depends on, I don't know.
Well,
what are the deciding factors on how valuable your area is by the number of trees? Really?
Individual. Oh, great! I completely lost the fucking fault, man. or thought. No, I was gonna say individual people. Individual people are lazy, but people, human beings as a species, are not lazy at all. We're fucking industrious as fuck. And we just get more so
to the point
in
of
time,
having
man.
needs met.
No, not at all.
Our desires are met.
Art and
our desires,
philosophy.
our list of desires has increased. You know what I mean? And it's largely due to our society, and the way our society has become structured.
Right.
Is this,
but
demand for product.
Not necessarily.
The unnecessary demand for product. I mean, a lot of the things in this room I could live without,
You can take any aspect of life and assign, a language to it in order to get it to fit, some kind of scheme or worldview. But the idea... Yes, you meet needs, and then beyond that there are desires or whatever, but desires are just expressions of, we have a desire to conquer nature, we have a desire to go to the moon, we have a desire to see new and wonderful things.
Okay.
And it's the same thing that you poo-poo when talking about, creating new flashy desirable things to consume. But it's the exact same desire that drives us to excel, that drives us to think about things better, that forces us to fight wars over maybe we shouldn't own people, and then fights our culture to say, listen, yeah, not owning slaves was great.
You think all wars are fought over that concept?
No, but it's a driving force in people. It's that complicated thinking, that ability to dream, that ability to think about things that might be different from how they are now. Like, yes, life is this way now, but what if it was different?
Another double-edged sword.
It's that same kind of thing. Like, what if I had an iPad? What if I had this desire? And I can imagine a new thing to desire. You imagine a new state of being, a new societal reality, and then you desire it. And then you want to go and produce it and consume it. Like, language is powerful, and people use it to try and fixate people on a certain set of problems that aren't necessarily real, Like, consumer culture, there are problems with it. But we're not dying, People traded necklaces. When the Native Americans traded necklaces, they didn't need necklaces to survive. It was a fucking desire that they were just needlessly consuming. Using up all the seashells on the fucking shore, stringing them with the sinew that they should have been using for bows and clothing or whatever. It's just part of us, man. There's a lot of shit that's part of human nature that people don't like. And I think the genius of our system and our founders was, to a certain degree, they accepted the reality of human nature. It's at least certain aspects of it. Sure, there's plenty of Puritans, and they were like trying to repress people's social lives and all that shit. And of course, they had slaves, so they weren't. These weren't gods among men, but they were doing something big for their time. And we're thinking, actually thinking about trying to create a government that worked well, instead of just being a powerful prince trying to hold on to power, or a nobleman trying to hedge his bets against whatever else.
Damn it, you know way more than I do about history.
Well, and the thing about history too is it's all interpretation. That's why that part of studying history is a part of studying, like, how the emperors said shit and what they were saying was going on, but also the way we know what was happening is by reading somebody's propaganda about it too.
It's true.
So, like, studying history is really fascinating in that way.
Oh,
and
I
it
love
can help
it.
you to, like, think about a lot of stuff differently.
I'm still learning so much. That's the bitch of history.
But
there's so much to know. That you just have professors that spend their entire careers focusing on one era of history for one country. You know what I mean? Like the Renaissance in France.
That's
you know what I mean? That's wild. You know what I mean? And they still, after an entire lifetime of being in that field, there's still new stuff they're figuring out.
It's fascinating too. I think I should have gone into sociology or something, because I although I like getting down into the minutia of shit like that too, I like the things I retain the most, which I guess everyone would, is the broad overview. But, like, that's interesting to me, because I would like to get the broad historical overview of the whole world, instead of focusing on the specific battles that happened in the Spanish-American War or whatever,
Right.
Like what commanders and what. I took a Vietnam War history class that was taught by a retired, like, colonel in the Air Force, and it was like a battle history of Vietnam. Like, you had to know the commanders and shit.
It's something I figured out from listening to Dan Carlin's podcast, because he does some fantastic pieces on specific points in history, and what you find out about that point in history based on like one battle and how those generals, the commanders of those armies fought, or, a particular time in history and how those people in that particular time handled situations. It really gives you insight into, the progression of people, throughout the course of history. And one thing I've noticed is that it doesn't really change. People, it's like the things we fight over, the manipulation of people, the masses by, the intelligent people of the time.
Right.
That are really sitting up on their towers looking down and, they have the master view of the big plan, the big picture.
Right.
And it allows them the ability to manipulate and control it. It's a big chess game. For the people that run the world.
Right.
If you notice, it's always been the aristocracy, the landowners, the bankers, the people that control the money. That general principle has never changed.
Well, yeah, it's just power. I mean, that's Animal Kingdom, too. The more powerful killers are the ones that grow the largest and eat the most protein. And, of course, you have plant eaters usually develop their own defenses.
I don't know if there's an answer to any of these questions. Like, that's another thing people you should really be hip to about this. Like, we have zero answers. I only have questions, man. Like, the more
we can answer some certain things. We know some.
I have
stuff,
an input on it, but you are a naive sumbitch if you think you have the answer to anything. Mm-hmm. Unless you're talking about 2 + 2, math. Physics, those are answers, you know what I mean? And even then, they don't,
right.
There are endless questions.
Well, I guess I should say we know some facts. I suppose that's different from an answer.
Right. There's a lot of shit out there, we're not hip to.
Oh, yeah, no, totally, for sure. That's part of the fun of life,
totally,
though.
for sure. You're such a hippie.
Totally, for real.
You fucking hippie. Which blows me away about you, man. It got me thinking about, like, why, really conservative people hate hippies. Like, hippies are all about fuck the government, you know what I mean? And that's really the conservative message as well. Is like, why aren't hippies getting along with conservatives?
That's always been my thing. Because you always see them. They have their little stands at every show. They're trying to sell shit. They're trying to bootleg. Like, don't you guys understand? Like, you're rebelling against government control of a marketplace.
Hippies are the original libertarians, man.
Yeah, but they don't know it. Well, the true hippies, the people that believe in communes, are different because that's different.
Well, a lot of them, if you go around to the music festivals and what have you, people, the hardcore hippies that live the life and follow the festivals and the bands around. I've met a lot of them that they live out of their cars or their RVs, and they just, this is their life, this is their livelihood. They make money.
Yeah,
but they'll also trade goods at these things. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's a really interesting little community.
Imagine if they paid taxes on all that shit. Like, if they actually paid into the systems that they advocated for, they would realize that...
What are these people advocating for? A lot of them don't use...
A lot of social welfare things.
A lot of them don't use social welfare. They make a decent living doing this thing.
Right. They also don't contribute to it, but if they vote, they're
vote off the grid.
It.
They pay their bills. They pay their electric bills.
That's what I'm saying. And they're voting for the rest of us to pay into these systems that they think are a good idea that they're neither using nor paying for, but we all are dealing with it.
Oh, I'm sure they get audited every once in a while. A lot of these people file their taxes.
What are you going to audit? The VW bug on the side of State Route 19? Although I guess you got to have tags somehow. I wonder how they do with that kind of shit if you're transient.
If you're on the grid, people pay income tax. A lot of them, they take credit cards.
They're probably,
they're stupid
if
not
they're
to.
Smart.
They have iPhones. They have to transfer with PayPal. They have accounts. They're on the grid.
If they're smart, they have a PO box somewhere or something, and they're just collecting social.
A lot of them have homes. They spend, like the cold months living at home. But
if you want
the rest
to
of
be
the
a hippie
year
and follow a band, you should totally be on welfare. That can cover at least your gas and maybe some food, and then you can try and create some kind of craft good to sell to increase your monthly income. I don't know necessarily.
I can't believe you would say that as a self-proclaimed Tea Partier.
Yeah, no, because I'm not stupid. Like, if that's the lifestyle you want to have, why wouldn't you fucking take advantage of the system? That's why I think you should try and not to set up these systems where you think you have everything under control, because humans, all we do is find our way through things, man. That's just our thing. We fucking connive and think and scheme and plot and overanalyze and fucking go insane thinking about problems.
I did that last night.
We find our way through every little nook and cranny. We take advantage of every system that exists. That's why we're the dominant fucking species. We're pudgy, fleshy little things with no claws, tiny little pitiful canines.
But we work well in groups when we have a common goal.
And we're smart and we can build tools and shit. Like
we can hold things.
We're like a tiger could fucking destroy us.
They can't kill 20 of us when we all gang up on it.
They can't kill one of us with all of our shit, with a gun.
Well, now, but I mean, if you look at the original evolution of man,
that's all part of our culture, man. This was a point that I learned in a anthropology class, that like communication and traveling in packs that's all considered like cultural. So like that's totally...
It differed culture to culture, but it's a universal trait that all civilizations
but like
started
tools
with.
you use and shit like that, and the things that you make and the things that you value in your society, those are all cultural, and that's all like a part of humans.
It's largely due to the
I'm
geography
saying
of where you
it's fair
came
to bring our guns, and like it's fair to bring like a tank to a tiger fight. You know what I mean? Like the tiger's got all the time, the tiger's bringing all of its skills, but like
so am I.
Yeah.
What? You think you can handle a depleted uranium round right in the chest?
The important thing to remember here is that I cannot remember why we were talking about pudgy humans taking over the earth.
Where we came from? The natural digression of our conversations into the rabbit hole?
That's a mystery.
This rabbit hole, it's deep. It gets dark. And it gets scary, man.
Oh, no, I remember now. We were talking about hippies and why they, like... I was saying you should take advantage you should take advantage of the system that's there. It's just do it. It's not illegal. You should just do it.
No,
it makes
you
sense
should
take advantage of every opportunity that comes your way.
As a human characteristic, that's what humans do. We take advantage of situations, and that's the rationale for why people that are hippies, traveling hippies should just be leeching welfare and not paying taxes.
No, I'm saying what they should be doing is paying their taxes and then realizing how much of a burden it is to them when they advocate for systems.
They're stoned, man.
Right. Well, that's another thing. See, this is fucking... We force them off the grid, too. So that, like... Trying to fight against the counterculture and make the touch tones of that culture illegal, the drugs, the scene. That's the hub of that culture. Trying to force that off to the side.
Oh, mainstream it. We can serious.
No, don't mainstream it. Just don't fight it. Like, let them be legal and have their own thing. Because pushing them off to the side,
inevitably be mainstream.
But it pushes
everybody
them,
smokes weed.
But it pushes them out of the fucking tax bracket. Pushes them out of the system, but they're still like voting.
Oh, by keeping it illegal?
It's just it perverts everything. It perverts the important thing in markets is like purity of pressures, so that natural flow of things can supersede people's greed or whatever, which requires regulation. But also, regulation can pervert the natural flow. So pushing hippies, pushing the counterculture out of the natural flow of society and the market as a whole had caused all these ripple effects. Outlawing the weed made them even more likely to want to be like, well, this is my lifestyle. I want to smoke. I want to follow this ban. I got to earn money while I'm on the ban. I'm already doing something illegal. I'm not going to report it on taxes. Why would I?
Hold on. I'm going to take this call right quick.
All right, so back from pausing.
My bad, everybody. I need to turn my phone off.
Important phone call. I should have peed while you were on the phone call. Anyways, so forcing hippies out, basically out of the natural market, pushing them out of the culture and trying to...
you wrote it down.
No, bullet point. But pushing them out of the culture and trying to like attack them by going after their drugs and whatever other touchstones that they had for their cultural touchstones, holding everything together, made them more likely to be relying on other off-the-grid, aka out of the tax structure and out of the regulatory structure, kind of making them people that you would think might be natural libertarians, people fighting against, kind of unwittingly fighting against the control of government, but they're just doing it not because they don't want government to, well, they are doing it because they don't want government to control them, They just they want to be able to live their life, but in order to live their life, it's just easier to go, to sell shit on the road, but you don't record taxes on that just because you just don't record taxes on that. It's not like they're making a rebel statement, but like at the same time, if the perversions that their philosophies are creating in the marketplace was affecting them more directly, like their life would be more fucked up. And even them just being outside the marketplace is in turn fucking up the marketplace and the way we consider.
Yeah, the pool could be bigger. God damn it.
Yeah, a lot bigger.
Huge.
There's a lot of shit.
$40 billion being lost just in marijuana.
Well, it's not even drugs. I bought tires on the black market. My tires are from the black market. Anytime you buy something from a buddy and you don't report taxes on that, that's a black market sale. Like anything, any little fucking thing. You buy like a lamp that your buddy has that you like. That's a black market fucking deal. You owe taxes on all that shit. And think about all that shit that if the legal structure was enforced as the way it's written, how much of a burden that would be. Like, it's ridiculous. And
don't get me wrong. Yeah, there are a lot of bad points to. I think, like you said,
it's necessary.
Regulation is necessary.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
You can't have a free marketplace without it.
Right, exactly. But why does it always have to be this overstep of your bounds? That's my big gripe with it. Is I feel this is necessary.
Right.
But did we have to go full tilt boogie into this shit?
It's because that's into what shit?
Into the licensing to be a nail technician. That's the favorite, classic jump starter of the libertarian movement.
Yeah, over-regulation.
It's why do you need a license to be a nail technician? You know what I mean? You can have insurance to protect your ass, and all that stuff. But why do I need a license?
The government.
Or if you want a really in-your-face example, think about your driver's license. Every 4 years, you have to renew your driver's license, and they don't accept this as a valid form of identification, even though after it's expired. Even though it was printed by a state agency, the only thing that's changed,
it's real. I just haven't.
I just don't see the point in it. You know what I mean? And the idea is that we want to keep your information current on that thing. But I mean, I could move the next year after that, and then instantly it's not current, but it's still not expired, so it's still legit.
This is the thing about bureaucracy.
If they actually made you retake your driver's exam, I would see that as okay, this is a justification. And I really do believe, at least after a certain age,
they should do that.
Everybody should have to prove that they remember the rules.
I think we should just have to retake the test every 4 years as a way of getting shitty drivers off the road or keeping people from becoming shitty drivers.
Well, the test is way too damn easy, man. Like that,
but think about how many people would fail it as easy as it is. Think about how many people had to take it a bunch of times. Like. It would take shitty people off the road, but also it would, since you do it every 4 years, it'd also be a way to get older people off the road without targeting the older people. Because this would be a regime that affects everyone. Every 4 years, you got to get tested. Well, guess what? That's going to take a lot of 80-year-olds off the road instantly.
Well, this is where I get into the whole surveillance thing. And initially, everybody takes it as an invasion of my civil liberties, my privacy. And it's a bad taste in your mouth. But the more I think about it, the more I'm actually for it, And I remember hearing John, what was that, Moyer?
Oh, Maher.
Yeah, Maher. Yeah,
the comedian guy.
Bill Maher. That's my bad. Bill Maher. When the initial NSA leakage came out, he was one of the few people out there that was this is there were quite a few actually, but anyway, a guy I wouldn't expect to hear that from. This is probably not a bad thing.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and then I was like, wow. But then I started thinking about it, and if you really want to cut out the bullshit, cut out the indecency of people, the greed, the need for this kind of regulation and stuff. If it was easier to get everybody doing the bad things, you know what I mean? Driving like an asshole, or cheating on your taxes.
You're talking about your total open source society,
Exactly.
There's
well,
no privacy.
Open source is the appropriate term, but
but
completely surveilled society. I mean, everybody should have like Google glasses on, and everything should be recorded. You would see a lot less fuckery, I think, anyway, if everybody knew that you're on camera all the time. Everything you're doing is being recorded, so don't fuck this up.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
The problem is the benefits outweigh the negatives on that one because someone's controlling that data stream.
Right, that's my big issue with it. That's why until that becomes the open source, that's the open source end of it.
But the idea that you don't have anything private, that changes that just changes a lot of things about the way our society
works. In your home,
works,
that's the only thing you get that's private.
Yeah, but how long does that last once everything else?
Yeah, people. I mean, look at all the nasty things people do in their homes.
You were saying before why they always take it that step farther. It's because that's human nature. We defend our own and try and take territory.
Well, they're already doing it, man. They probably turned my phone on a minute ago.
They could if they probably have flag words that trigger it. But no, that's the thing about the relationship between bureaucracies and legislatures, man. Fuck. I've been trying to make this point for 5 minutes.
Slipped.
And it slipped right when I was going to say, man.
That's
brutal. It's like...
Marijuana affects them.
Yeah. Well, the basic gist is that legislatures have good intentions, and then bureaucracies...
Are you sure about that?
Legislatures, for the most part, even if they're misguided...
I would say that's an overgeneralization. Many, maybe.
Yes,
some, sure. But
no, because you can't. Because a lot of the big power grabs, it's hard to do them out in public like that. So the real way that tyranny comes into power is through the bureaucracy, man. Because legislatures put out good ideas, and then bureaucracies fill in regulations.
Okay, well this gets regulations back to the education idea.
But regulations are basically laws, but they're not laws. They're not written by legislatures. You don't vote for the people who write the regulations.
Right.
And technically, the legislature is not supposed to be able to do that, but no one follows the fucking Constitution. Is tattered. No one gives a fuck. Republicans either.
It's ironic that every legislator, every politician, they sign in. I swear to uphold and defend the Constitution. How many of them actually do that? Especially like Obama.
Damn near none of them.
I cannot believe, as a constitutional law scholar, he would stand up there and say that bullshit. Although I can't remember
which bullshit.
Never mind. It's for another day when I hear it again. I forgot. Those things you have vague memories of, but you don't know enough about it to actually talk about it.
Remember, I was pissed off about it, but I can't remember
it was
why
fantastic,
what it was.
But I don't remember it. I'm just bombarded by fucking information,
by legislatures,
it's so hard.
Bureaucracies thing. No, but that's why, because the bureaucracy is you give it an inch, man, and you're never getting it back. And plus, they're going to take 3 feet slowly over the next 20 years. Just by slowly putting out regulations. If no one challenges on it, then it just becomes part of the regulation, and then it's just what you got to do to get shit done, just to live your life.
Right.
And eventually, it just becomes oppressive.
And whose fault is that?
It's humans' fault, man.
Our fault, exactly.
But that's why people shouldn't be eager to empower the government and ask them to do these things, because you're just ceding them more territory, and then they gobble up more with regulations.
Well, I don't think it's necessarily
bureaucrats holding on to their sphere of influence.
I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing for a government to handle things, as long as that government is transparent. And people actually, it requires a lot of activity and participation on the part of the people being governed.
Well, we know exactly what agencies are proclaiming these regulations and shit. It's
right, but how many people give a shit? I mean, walk down my street and ask, how many people you're going to find that actually know, about the institution, the breakdown of how laws are made, or any of that shit.
That's the problem.
They're in their fucking house watching Kim Kardashian or American Pickers. That's why I turned cable off, man. It was just becoming this blatant, in your face, fuck you, America. We are so disinterested in keeping you in the loop. This is what you have to watch.
Right, yeah, History Channel doesn't have anything historical.
Swamp people.
We showed 85,000 versions of World War II history, so that's all the history there is.
Yeah, basically.
There's no more history in the world.
Right.
That's it. World War II 800,000 times.
We figured nobody actually pays attention to anything.
We did
more
one
than,
Chinese
60
thing.
years ago, so.
We did one Chinese thing. We've been making World War II documentaries for 50 years. We did one Chinese thing. That's the end of history. Rome a little bit. We did some Rome. we found some dudes with some Roman armor and like marched them around a field.
But there's just too much conjecture in the Roman history, so we can't actually put that out there. Not to mention nobody watches it.
Right?
It's all about ratings.
There used to be some really cool. The Tales of the Guns ones were
cool.
There's
some of them, yeah. But you're trying to tell me that the breakdown of the History Channel is not due strictly to producers taking it over and being like, look, this is going straight down the tubes. If we don't start upping our ratings, we're going to get this channel turned off.
Certainly. The shitty thing is, we all think a la carte's a good idea, and I like that idea too, like consumer power.
Yeah, but that's where the internet comes in.
Well, the problem is that, that's why the History Channel would need to change, because the only reason the History Channel existed before was because you bought a cable package, and so someone convinced the cable channels, put it on here, it'll be good, give a lot of choices. It doesn't have to make a lot of fucking, it doesn't have to succeed in ratings-wise because it's just part of the package. But now, or in the future, you're going to have to want to view specifically that content. You're not going to flip, although you could flip through the internet or something. Someone should just, I guess the YouTube is going to be it. You're going to have to search YouTube for shows and channels, or someone will create some kind of Netflix, YouTube infusion TV style, something that you could just click through like a TV, but that's all just YouTube channels or something.
I mean, pretty soon.
I got it. You just couldn't post single, I don't know.
I'm sure it's going to be wacky and wild, and there are going to be a lot of experiments that people are going to do over the coming years as the internet quickly, I should say, takes over.
Well, all of our units.
Dependence on electricity. And that's another thing, too. If you really want to look at the growth industry. I know, you alcoholic.
Yeah, I've been drinking all day.
But no, look at the growth of our demand for electricity. The next big market that is just being, it's being smacked down at every turn by, the fossil fuel companies, whether it be oil, coal, natural gas, the renewable energy sources.
Wait. Your theory is it's being smacked down by billions of dollars from the Obama administration?
That's what's holding it down? Lobbyists.
No, but but Obama has been pumping money into
I know, exactly.
Companies.
What, they didn't support his campaign?
No, I'm sure
they did a lot of support. He was all over the coal mines, I'm not going to shut this coal mine down. I care about Ohio. I care about natural gas, all this shit. Fracking is good, and all that. Oh my God.
But he's shut down a lot of coal mines.
Yeah, well, just not in states he was trying to win.
Well, yeah, certainly not. But I don't think
certainly not in the swing states.
I don't think
Kentucky.
I don't think we should be trying to get rid of coal power. I'm all for coming up with better, more efficient forms of power.
I'm a big proprietor of the centralized grid. I think it's a very inefficient way to satisfy our power needs.
That's why we shouldn't be trying to kill, especially regional, like coal is a regional resource.
No, it's still centralized. We're moving to a point where we have the technology to start people being on their own individualized grid, not sapping off of a big, huge, generally wasteful system that we have in place. And the only reason these people fight it is because they have a lot of money invested in the way the system is set now. And they don't want to see their profits shrink. They don't want to see any kind of change to the system.
Fighting it, man. No one's fighting
they do. Well, they don't pump money
into... Solar panels aren't efficient enough and are prohibitively expensive. That's why it takes big, giant tax subsidies for people to have them installed on their house, man.
Well,
eventually, it'll reach parity, and hopefully the grid will decentralize a lot.
But they're slowing it down. I mean, I've heard stories and this is all conjecture, but I've heard stories that, they've had 50% efficient photovoltaic cells back in the 70s. And that the oil companies, coal companies, they have all bought up this technology. They buy out the patent rights. I mean, think about if you're an inventor, or a doctor working in it. They sponsor these companies. Check it. These companies, the way schools work. I wish Kyle was here to join our conversation. He's working his doctorate at Ohio State. Aerospace engineering.
Oh, nice.
He private companies fund his section of research.
Right.
A very small part actually comes from the university and state funds.
Right.
I mean, it's the private companies that push the innovation, and it depends on where they put their dollars.
So is that
certain courses and paths of engineering are even explored.
Right.
Because a lot of people, they don't even go for the photovoltaic, kind of a degree where their focus is that, because there's way more money if you get into, aerospace or coal, that kind of shit.
But any industry that it could make money does make money. Like, you kind of can't stop it.
I think it's naive to think that there are people out there that aren't powerful enough and in positions of influence that they could manipulate. That's what people do. They take advantage of systems that they have ability to manipulate.
Yes.
And if all my proof is on this, I have zero hard proof of this, and nobody does. Otherwise, it would be the big thing in the news.
Right.
And the idea I stand behind is, if I'm sitting here thinking about this, what makes me think that somebody is way smarter than me?
Get to the point. Make the point.
That is the point. These guys are making it very hard. They don't put any money into the alternative fuels research. We could have these photovoltaic cells that are fantastic.
Why do you think you have to have oil money invested in it for it to work?
Because they're the only ones that really care about energy.
That's ridiculous. People care.
It's their business.
People care about making money. Period.
Okay, yeah, but perhaps right now the amount of money that a private investor would have to put in order to get the returns, they don't see it. They didn't get rich by being stupid. They don't want to make a stupid investment, and they're probably going to lose money.
That's a decent point about getting money to do the research in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, they have to put up that front capital, and a lot of them don't want to throw away $30 million to an institution that's not going to yield a return.
Right.
I mean, again, they didn't get rich by being stupid.
But it's not like oil companies are the only people funding fucking.
But oil companies, coal companies, energy companies,
government
GE,
money that goes.
They post record profits.
Come on, government funds anything that says global warming has global warming attached to it, man. Like, if it were out there, it would have found a way.
No, I think it is out there, and there's just no incentive for these people to change the system. Just like that, the automated clearinghouse thing I was talking to you about earlier.
Our people. If it was cheaper, we would use it.
But yeah, okay, maybe 20, 30, 40 years from now, when, 20, 30, 40 years from now, when, the markets have equalized on a very slow scale. I'm saying these guys are being very socially unresponsible. Just by they have the ability, they have the motivation. They have the ability. They just don't have the motivation to do it right now.
Yeah, but at the same time, you can't just throw money at a problem. Like, there are people doing the research is being paid for and done.
Tell that to the United States government.
You
just can't throw money at a problem.
I know, right? Some research just takes time. Sometimes it just takes time to work through it. You can't just let's spend more money on it this year and we'll have it invented by tomorrow. Sometimes it just takes 20 fucking years to invent fusion power or, whatever. Sometimes it just takes a long time for human understandings of the working of things to fucking progress far enough that it filters down to engineering. Because engineering is the downstream of theoretical physics. You figure out, is it real? Then you figure out, well, how can we make a machine that does it?
How can we manipulate this newfound information?
Yeah, here's the reality. Einstein wrote E=mc². We knew we could make a nuclear bomb. Took them years to be how do we fucking build it?
We got a lot more out of that equation than just bombs.
Well, yeah. Well, the gist is matter to energy. And it took them years to find any kind of way. We had bombs, but that might not be right. I was about to say we had bombs before we had power stations, but I don't know if that's true. Because power stations are just radioactive material, boiling water. A bomb is actually much more complicated than that because it's a fusion reaction. Because you're not trying to harness the energy, you're just releasing it on a landmass.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would imagine
and
anyway. I mean,
nuclear energy is just
boiling water.
It's just hot rocks.
Yeah.
Just hot rocks, boiling water, radioactive elements.
It's a steam generation. That really blows me away. Is that really when you think about the burning of fossil fuels? You know what I mean? Other than oil, gasoline, being used to make an explosion and generally used in pistons, internal combustion engines. That all nuclear, coal, all that stuff, it's all used to
power plants are still steam. Yeah,
steam to generate turbines.
So we're still
that's so fucking archaic. It blows my mind.
Think about this. That means that we're probably still under what historians will classify as the Industrial Revolution, because steam power is still our most prevalent form of energy generation.
I know. Imagine what it's going to be 500 years from now. If we make it that far, they look back at us and wow. They had all this other shit, and they were still fucking around with the steam.
Rome became an empire and lasted for another 1,000 years, and we haven't even got to an empire
Dude,
yet.
I downloaded this really cool map that you should check out. Oh fuck, I don't know if I have it up here anymore. It's the like a really cool timeline of civilizations.
Ooh, that does sound like something that'd be neat.
It's interesting. Like from 3000 BC and to now.
Nice.
It's very cool. It's all color coded with all the shit.
Damn it! I forgot what the fuck we were talking about.
Steam generation.
Oh
physics.
yeah. Like we think we're living in the future, and 2015 is the year that Back to the Future was, but really we're still in the fucking Industrial Revolution.
Right.
Yeah, like the information. I guess we think we're in the information revolution or whatever, the information age or whatever. But I think we're still.
I think it's more the
communication. I think we're in the overlap. I think we're whatever they call it. I think we're still in like the overlap period because we're still using Steam. You could class.
This is the tail end of the the tail end of the Industrial Revolution and the beginning of the Communication Revolution.
Well, and I guess it depends on what culture you're talking about too, because there's still cultures
for America anyway
struggling to get to fucking industrial.
They're still in the fucking Stone Ages, man.
That's why I want to see. I would love to see like a sci-fi epic where the disparity is there too. Like all of Earth is unified in super awesome technology. Like probably not. That probably won't happen that way. There'll probably still be poor, shitty countries.
No. There's still because technology will never ever bring people together.
But once you're leaving the planet and creating your own cultural colonies throughout, why do you want to go fuck with some shithole? Like, what do they got that I can't go into space and get? Why do I care about fucking Africa when I can go get a fucking mountain of gold that's floating in fucking the asteroid belt? Why do I want to fight over that land when I can go to a planet where there's no fucking people? Like, I think Earth will probably still be will have crazy. I don't know. I just don't.
Well, I mean, the future would be biodomes. They put biodomes onto other planets.
Yeah. Well, I think Earth is going to kind of look like that because at least thus far, more and more percentage of the population that lives in major urban cities. 50% of, I think, the Earth's population, but definitely America's population, lives in major urban areas, it's cities of 1 million people or more. 50%. Think about that. 50% of all the people in the country. That's a greater percentage living in cities than there used to be, and there's how many more billions of people living in the country. So we're like emptying out the countryside and filtering into these big cities.
Well, I think we should be doing the other way around. We should be spreading out now that we have, because think about the idea of a city.
But apparently it's just not what people do, man.
Well, the more telecommuting will become a popular thing, and it's growing.
Well, we're very communal.
People don't have to go to work.
We're very communal people, and we like shit going on.
Right, but I think you're just going to start seeing like a massive suburb area surrounding huge metropolitan areas.
Right. That'll certainly happen.
But like the suburban, like the stretch of tightly knit residential communities will spread further into the rural areas because telecommunication is a more prevalent.
Right.
You know what I mean? But the big major industrial centers, they'll probably stay where the size they are, and they'll grow upward.
Right, but that's not necessarily why people are in this. People are in the cities because there's shit to do, because there's people there, because there's stores and this and that.
Right.
It'll be the
suburban areas will become
cities are just going to get bigger.
Well.
Yes, suburbia will be bigger.
Well, I mean, or maybe
you'll but it'll still be centralized.
In between, you know what I mean? Like,
could be more cities.
Could you picture like the 300 years from now? Like Cleveland to Columbus is like a continuous expanse of residential to an urban,
just a
residential
big corridor.
to an urban.
Yeah, could be.
Then it's just like a mega city, you know what I mean, or connected, cities that just turn into one gigantic.
That's not the trend now. Like, the cities are getting bigger.
Well, look at huge places like Los Angeles. You know what I mean? If you see the aerial view of Los Angeles,
think about the percentage of the population and the growth of the population combined. We're getting bigger and bigger, and we're moving all into the cities. So we're not staying out in the urban areas. That would be the reason for the population for the urban to have the megacity. The rural areas would have to be getting more highly populated and becoming more city-like and connecting in between. Instead, everyone's leaving rural, going into the city. But the suburbia will spread out and be bigger. But I think the rural towns will disappear, and they'll just be like really rural people.
Yeah,
it'll be like hillbillies
in between the big cities.
And it'll be like hillbilly, suburban,
I don't think they're going anywhere.
No more small
You really
town.
think Mount Vernon is going anywhere?
Not in our lifetime, but possibly for humans. I'm sure there'll still be some small towns.
Well, by the time you get to that point where places like that would be disappearing, I mean, it's not that far from, look at just
I'm not saying it's a bad thing either.
I think it's, well, all right, it could go either way. This is all speculative. But
right.
I don't know. I mean, I don't see, a decent-sized little town in between big major cities just disappearing.
They do all the time, man. There are ghost towns out there.
There are ghost towns. I mean, but I don't see them all going away. I don't see them all going away.
Right. No, there'll probably still be some.
Yeah. Places like Kansas.
But
places like Kansas will be deemed strictly a quarantine fucking growing center.
Right? Yeah, probably. Well,
nobody lives here. We just operate.
Right. Here. Well, and nobody will want to. Our pop culture has just become more complicated.
Even with that, though, I guarantee there'd be one person that wants 1 acre out there in the middle of all the cornfields.
There'll
I
always
just want
be
to be
those
the fuck alone.
There'll always be those people. Those are the people that will drive space travel, and those are the people that have always driven exploration to begin with.
Hold that thought. All right, we're back. Chuck forgot his spot, so we're moving on here.
I think we
kind of like coming back to a topic we were kind of hitting on. I don't even know. But anyway, something I was listening to the other day on the radio. Going back to the NSA surveillance stuff and recent development here for us. Here it's 10/23/13. The NSA, leaks by Snowden. Apparently, I don't know if this is new stuff that came out or is it just like old ripple effects.
Right.
But the leak about U.S. spying on French citizens, tapping their phones and stuff in their country.
Oh yeah, I saw something about that.
Violation of international law and all that kind of stuff. And so, the shitstorm's heating up again with that.
Well, there for a while it seems like every little nation, I remember there's some South American nations that were protesting because it came out that they had been spied on, and everyone's kind of done that. But to a certain extent, that's all bullshit because they all do that.
It's why are you people shocked? The CIA's been around for a long time. The NSA's been technically around since World War I, not officially around since the 50s.
Well, and the CIA was created to spy on other countries. I'm not shocked. I don't really care about that. Good. I want them to do that. That's what they're supposed to do to make sure they're not planning to bomb us or whatever. That's normal. That's normal in the course of diplomacy. But the stuff about spying on us, I don't like, and I don't think it's worth.
Yeah, who cares about French people?
Right. I don't think it's worth I don't think it's fucking worth the benefits at all.
Yeah, that's another glaring statement. We are all upset that we are getting spied on. We really don't care that we're spying on everybody else. No, the whole thing has gotten out of hand.
Well, we're not spying on the French people. We're spying on
French citizens.
Intelligence and shit.
French citizens.
Oh, just random French citizens?
Well, people that we deem as possible terrorist threats. And also diplomats, people that supposedly have, right to, international secrecy, diplomatic immunity, what have you.
Jeez, thanks Muslims for opening up this can of fucking worms.
Yeah, it was all their fault. No, terrorism isn't really. That's why you really need to listen to Dan Carlin, man. You opened my eyes to how old an idea terrorism is.
I know all about the Haymarket fucking bombings and the anarchists in the 1920s. Were the big terrorists of the day. Terrorism has been around.
Think about the start of World War I was caused by an assassination. Yes. Technically, a terrorist attack.
And terrorism used to hit us here in New York City. The anarchists would set off bombs. Fucking Weather Underground set off bombs a lot, and that was there were more terrorist attacks happening in America at that time, than there are now in the age of terrorism. Granted, there was one spectacular fucking attack. And there have been several after. If they had been successful all the times that they tried, it would damn near look like Israel over here. But luckily, we've been lucky that there have been some inept people. Our screens must be good enough to keep some experts, or we just get lucky or whatever. Like the underwear bomber, that plane should have gone down, because he got it on the plane and ignited it. It just didn't work right. It just burned up his crotch instead of blowing up the fucking plane. But that plane should have blown up. They tried to take out the World Trade Centers before too, with in the early '90s The van full of
just like that's what blows me away. Bombing. That's what blows me away about the whole 9/11 thing, you know. And that's where I started to become the conspiracy guy. And during this program, we are going to take back the word conspiracy, or at least modify, you know, and separate legitimate conspiracies versus paranoid conspiracies.
Right.
You know, because the moon landing thing, I don't know, that might be a paranoid conspiracy. But I mean, the assassination
is totally a paranoid conspiracy.
Right. The assassination of JFK being, financed by the CIA.
Right.
That's not a paranoid conspiracy. There are a lot of fingers pointing in that direction, a lot of evidence, a lot of fuzzy areas.
There's much more evidence that said it was just a pissed off fucking wannabe communist hero who couldn't get any attention anywhere.
Really?
Yeah, sometimes a guy can just take a gun and shoot somebody. Happens all the fucking time.
Yeah, no, none of that Zapruder film makes me believe that
there has
more
to be
than
a
one
conspiracy.
Shooter. There's more than one shooter. Okay,
fucking guy, but shooting up a whole fucking school, you're fine with a conspiracy of one or two persons. Like, why can't
I really don't care about that.
Is that guy any fucking crazier? The single person that shoots up a school. Why is that easier to believe a lone person doing something that insane and crazy and planning all that out?
Because I don't.
But one guy shooting
there could be
president.
multiple people. I'm not. When did I ever say that I thought that these were these attacks on schools or movie theaters or any of that? You know, any kind of mass shooting or crazy event like that. That it's not perpetrated by multiple people. Like I really don't care.
Wait, so you're reserving the right to stake out the ground?
It really does.
Shootings are part of a mass conspiracy or something?
No, it's about the.
I know, I'm just being a dick.
Silly dick.
Just trying to force you into a corner.
No, there is no.
Hey,
corner.
and we're gonna try. Like, we like to debate, so we will use silly and dirty tricks on each other. But I want to start now, and I want to try and acknowledge those, because a lot of times the problem with debate nowadays is people get caught up in scoring cheap political points that aren't even important really to the
I'm going to try and steer away
substantive
from
debates.
Cherry picking numbers,
right, but sometimes we can't help it. Sometimes we're animate. It'll happen. It will happen.
Sorry,
because we're active in politics, and it's just too easy to slide into the canned reel of responses.
Well, all we're looking at here,
we want to try and call ourselves on it.
A lot of what we're exposed to is cherry-picked numbers, and these are the only numbers that we have to work with. Mm-hmm. It sucks. Well, I mean, it's not the only numbers we have to work with, but I'm kind of lazy, and I'm not going to actually dig into a lot of this shit.
Hey, we're barely above uninformed voters here, actually. No, that's sadly not true, and we don't know enough for that. Yeah. We should be
not a good statement about us.
We should be as uninformed as a voter gets. Should be us, but sadly, we're probably higher end of the informed voter scale.
Ugh, that's
I mean, whatever. But I just think we
at least in the top 50%.
What we do now, though, is we encourage all those uneducated and uninformed people to vote. We should just the voting campaign shouldn't be vote or die. It should be vote if you have a fucking clue.
Well, my brother put it to me best is that, your right to vote, it isn't a right, it's a responsibility.
Yeah, exactly.
And that message gets lost, I think,
yes,
a lot.
It does. Vote or die, motherfucker. Because they're our guy's popular, so we can whip you. But, whatever. The other side will have a popular guy someday, too. And then,
But anyway, what the fuck was I getting on about? Oh, yeah, conspiracies. Yeah,
they're real conspiracies.
When you shoot up a school that has zero political ramifications other than getting politicians all riled up about gun control.
All right.
When you see the president being assassinated or fucking skyscrapers falling down, driving us into wars. Nobody blowing up a school is starting a war. You know what I mean? Whereas you fly a couple planes into the World Trade Centers. Yeah, that's going to stir up the fucking hornet's nest.
Yeah, it will.
There are bigger implications going on. And so these little shootings could be conspiracies. I really just don't care. Right. You know what I mean? But when you assassinate our president, you know what I mean? One of the most beloved presidents, even though, it's debatable. But he was pretty well-liked.
At least popular at the time, I'm pretty sure.
I forget what percentage of the vote he got, the popular vote.
He was in Texas.
Anyway, besides the point.
Think about
where I'm talking about. I don't buy the story that I was fed, and then you have all these people from the United States government standing up there. This is what happened, and then you get Zapruder film kind of stuff, and that's just okay. Well, you said this happened, and you're pretty damn firm about this is what happened, and you want me to believe this is what happened, and I see this other thing over here that says that's really not what happened,
right?
You know what I mean? And that's where I start questioning things. Okay, if it's not a conspiracy, why are you lying about it?
I get that because I don't trust the government, but you're right, I do tend to trust some of that kind of shit more readily than I probably should.
And the whole thing with the towers going down, well, hold on, we can bring this back to 9/11 real quick. Just as a quick little blurb in there. I know everybody's always, and I probably turned half the people off this podcast already.
No, it'll be fun. Come on, everybody, get on my side this way.
Yeah, come on, hit me, you sons of bitches. No, but when you stand up there and you have, Condoleezza Rice and, Donald Rumsfeld telling us that, we had no idea they would ever try and do these kind of attacks. And then you get the security people from the World Trade Center from the 90s, 96, they were running terrorist hypotheticals. And people flying planes into them was definitely something they considered. Like 5 years before the whole thing went down, and so when you stand up there and that's just one small example of the the kind of hazy, murky waters that we ended up in after that, where it's just like, okay, what? I don't understand. You guys are saying one thing, and I have this other stuff over here. Why are you lying about this? What exactly is the point of you lying about this very simple thing?
You can never negate incompetence and bureaucratic just crap. If I work for a state bureaucracy, man, and I'm telling you, what that sounds like to me, that sounds like the people on the ground floor doing their job, working in that building, the security people who work in that building, standing out there looking out those windows saying, you could fly a plane right the fuck into this building, let's do some drills about it.
Right.
And the people in Washington, however many miles away, just not even fucking...
Well, as much money as we pumped, even back in 2000, even in the 90s, the amount of money that has always been pumped into national security, the NSA, the CIA, the FBI, a lot of people were asleep at the switch for that kind of shit to go down. Right. And it's amazing how 4 hours after the whole thing goes down, we know the guy that did it.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Well,
okay.
And he had been telling us that we were ignoring him. Oh. He had told us for years that.
Well, okay, that's even worse.
We knew
we've been telling all these things. Okay, so you guys knew he was telling you that this might go down, and we're still not doing anything about it. These are just idle threats. There's no way you could actually pull it off.
Because they were bad at it.
But nobody got fired over this. Did anybody get fired? Did anybody lose their fucking job over this?
I have no idea.
Probably just not. Give us some money and we'll go take care of this problem.
Sebelius hasn't.
We had no idea this could possibly happen.
Right, Sebelius hasn't lost her job, and I think it's more like people in the CIA had been following Bin Laden and warning people, but everyone higher ups had just been assuming that they were overestimating the threat. People had been underestimating the threat and shit. Is I think basically the consensus. Assuming that
wasn't Petraeus the director of the CIA during that time?
No. He's never
No. He was a general during the Iraq War, and then he became director of the CIA. Okay.
He's been a general. He's been a military man the whole time. He was the surge guy, the guy put in charge of the surge. Saved Iraq, as it were, and then Obama didn't try to reach a status of forces agreement and agreed with the pullout. But I mean, whatever. We were gonna have to pull out at some point. If we had kept them there for another 50 years like we did in Japan and Germany, they would probably end up being a much more stable democracy and a much more of an American ally. Of course, there'd be all kinds of baggage because there'd be all kinds of political history with us.
Have you heard about the shit going on in Iraq now?
Yes, they're probably going to break into sectarian civil war again.
Mm-hmm. It's like daily car bombings.
You can nation build. The problem is it takes a lot of money. And it takes a long fucking commitment. We're still in Japan. We're still in Germany. But those are big, massive markets. Iraq maybe could have been a market.
Those are also specific examples. Like Berlin. That was kind of a hot spot for a long time.
What do you mean? As in just lots of wars and stuff?
As in the line of demarcation.
Right. Well, they're also cultures.
Berlin Wall.
There are also Western cultures or in the case of Japan, a culture that...
Is that what it was? Line of demarcation? I feel that's not correct, but
no,
I'm sorry.
That's the Pope. That's the Pope. That's the New World separating England and France.
Yeah,
whatever.
Claims or
anyway, like that.
I mix metaphors sometimes. Sue me. But yeah, I mean, the Berlin Wall, that whole separation, when did that come down?
Early 90s?
Yeah.
I think Bush... I don't think Reagan was in office.
Mr. Gorbachev. Tear down this wall.
That was Reagan. But I don't think it actually fell until Bush was in office. I'm not sure about that.
Could look it up, but I'm too lazy.
Sure
anyway, but still, you see what that was 1945. We took Berlin.
Well, we didn't. We let the Soviets take the city first.
Well, I mean, during that year, we occupied Berlin.
They took the brunt. Well, they really took the brunt of the war.
Again, well, you're supposed to be a history guy. You're supposed to know who got there first.
I do know the Russians got there first. I don't know the date. I should know the date, but I don't.
But you're trying to tell me the United States didn't occupy it within a month?
We got there. I don't know, probably just pretty soon afterwards. But the Russians had been the whole time we were planning D-Day. Well, the whole time you got to remember the whole time we were planning D-Day, the Russians were fighting in Stalingrad and fighting these horrible fucking sieges, and they had been fighting the Germans the whole time on the ground. So they were like, we want Berlin. They spent the whole time getting fucking murdered and managed to scratch back and had the Germans on their heels. Granted, who's to say if we weren't able to invade and cause a second front, the Germans might have been able to overpower. Who knows? History would tell you that the Germans probably would have overextended themselves and had to retreat. But
well, my understanding of it was that Hitler had the Brits on their heels, and he stopped when he hit the English Channel at the in Normandy.
Oh yeah, Dunkirk. His generals
and allowed them to dig in.
Allowed them to retreat. He could have captured a big chunk of the army.
He didn't press. He left. He stopped advancing for like a month. And if they had continued the advance, he would have taken mainland Britain, and then the United States would have had nowhere to launch from.
You can't just advance on Britain. That's a massive invasion. Like after they had taken all of Europe for the most part. They were still kind of fighting in France, but the English had been helping the Swedes or Norway or one of those Norse countries. And the Germans had advanced so fast, it was probably Poland or something. But there's this massive British force at Dunkirk, and there was this huge evacuation, like all the naval ships, but all of the merchant marines, like all the fishing boats. Every English fucking boat went to Dunkirk and grabbed troops. And the Germans probably could have pushed the attack and destroyed like the majority of the English army. There were a big chunk of the English army right then and there. Mm-hmm. But for whatever reason, didn't, and they were able to escape. But anyways, then they beat France, and they had Fortress Europe, and they were bombing England. And what I think what it was is like a stray bomber, or an English bomber or something that had been lost, couldn't find their bomb site and let their bombs go, and I think it ended up hitting like a civilian city under German control or something.
As much as the History Channel went over this, we should know.
Right. Well, and Hitler flipped out and retaliated and I think it's something like that, but for whatever reason, Hitler gets mad and switches from targeting like the radar and military targets and just wants to bomb the English into submission, so it just starts the raids on London. Right. And this is a let up on the RAF. At the same
time, he started the war right around that time with Russia.
Yes, well,
right after he took France.
No, he tried to go after England first and got sidetracked and
he was split up his forces. Well, he had actually dedicated all of his forces and left that line in between Russia and German controlled Europe.
He had been so successful that he was full. Thank God he made these mistakes.
Because Stalin didn't want to fight. No, like Germany
probably did
this.
eventually, but
yeah, but that was the whole thing. Yeah. Hitler was lining up on. That was the way my history teacher in high school.
They had an armistice. The Hitler and Stalin had an aggression pact.
And his troops, Stalin's troops on the border, were calling him like, "Dude, we see shit tons of German tanks lining up on the border, man."
And he's like, "Nah,
no, they're not going to do that.
Pact. Come on,
yeah, come on."
Well, Hitler probably was like, "Listen, me and you will take over the world, and we'll split it up."
I'm just putting these here. I mean, you guys manufactured them. Remember, we just want to let them chill.
I'm going to put some tanks here.
No worries.
So the English don't know I have them, and then they're not coming for you. Trust me. Yeah. Yep.
But no, I mean, a couple of crucial moves, as far as I understand, that Hitler fucked up, and all of his generals were sitting there telling him, "Don't do this, don't do this." But then they trusted him, because so many times, throughout the beginning years of the war, he was right. on his crazy ass whims.
Like we
should attack Poland. All of his generals like, are you sure about that?
Right.
Yeah, do it. Yeah. They won't do anything. They're so scared of war. They're not going to do anything. He was absolutely right. And then, hey, he invaded France. And then he's like, dude, they're not going to do anything.
Right.
Well, that wasn't next. He invaded Holland or something after that.
No,
he invaded a couple of countries before the Allied powers were like, whoa, shit! You're doing the crazy shit again.
He seized. I think he seizes Austria, but the Austrian people are Germanic anyways, and like welcomed it, and it was like bloodless coup. And then he I think it's Poland. There was just recently some cool History Channel. I think it was History. So props to them. One shining fucking pearl of corn in the massive turd of shit that is the History Channel.
It was the clean one.
Right? But they was just talking about how they had this propaganda, how they made false news attacks it must have been Polish incursions on German territory and killing German soldiers and shit, and it was all just fake, and so they just made this fake border skirmish so that the German people would still be behind the war effort. So they didn't think that they were just we just want, because the German people didn't want to go to war. Generally, people don't want to go to war because they understand that they're going to be the ones that are going to fight, not the leaders. Mm. But
depends. I mean, Germany was in a weird spot right then.
Right, but no, they didn't want to. That's why they drummed up that shit, and then shit kind of snowballs, and then you're caught up in national pride. You're like, well, whatever.
What, you trying to tell me that a vast majority of rednecks out there wouldn't be, jump at the chance to go to war with Korea?
No, probably not. It depends, man. There's a lot of rednecks that
kill that motherfucker.
Yeah, but they don't want to fucking go. Fuck that, man. I got my land here. Fuck you.
All right, well, yeah, it's weird getting people to go and fight a war when it hasn't started yet. But yeah, if North Korea were to suddenly invade,
well, that's kind of part of
the strange.
That's kind of part of the problem with a professional army, because you don't have to convince them to go, but you can convince them that it's a good idea that we should send people over there.
Well, how did they man the German army?
I think it was conscription.
Was it a draft? Conscription?
Yeah, I think so. I think you probably like Israel. Everyone spends 2 years of service or whatever it is now. A lot of countries do that kind of shit.
I am a full supporter of that.
I don't like it because I don't like the government, because it's just so un-American. The government can't tell you have to do something.
Think about the appreciation everyone would have for going to war if you knew you or your kids would have to go fight it.
I agree that would be very valuable, but I don't like the idea of sending every single citizen through the government, brainwash factory. That's what the military boot camp is designed to break you down and rebuild you to function as a cog in their machine.
Does it have to be?
Yeah, if you want a good army.
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
that's why professional armies always win throughout history. But the problem is, then they become, this
mindless
kind of strange entity of their own. They can have political power. That was the problem in Rome. The armies became political armies, literally, who would just take over Rome. But you could also get them, you could just have your legion go flood the voting boxes, because there for a while only Rome voted, even though when they were an empire and they had other territory, it was just the city of Rome voted on shit and leaders and shit. There's actually I think it's the Social Wars, the Italian allies, the other Latin-speaking people, the other people who lived on, the other Italians rebel against Rome in the midst of their empire building, and they flip out, and it's bloody, and there's I think someone becomes a dictator. Can't remember his name. The first time he's the first Caesar figure, but a dictator was an actual office in Roman law or whatever to take over in emergency situations. Blah blah blah. Anyways, they settle it out. I guess technically the Romans win, but they agree to give citizenship to other people around. But
you go off on these long
I know,
man,
it's
and
random.
Everybody's tuning out.
I know, I'm sorry. The point is that there's double-edged sword to professional armies. And creating voting blocks and shit, because essentially this is an immigration debate. These people wanted to be voting citizens in this government, this institution, this empire that had expanded its borders around them, which is
But they're not technically Rome. They are just the conquered Romans, so they don't count.
Well, they were Italian, but they were never conquered. Like, they were Latin islands allies.
I'm sure the people of Rome would disagree.
Well, because they were like right next door. They were like cousins. They were the same people. They looked the same. They were ethnically the same. So they all spoke Latin. They were the Latin allies.
But they couldn't vote.
They were just in a different city. And you got to remember that Rome was a nation state, or a city state, like the Greeks. It grew from a single city.
We were almost wrapped up, and then we're back into it.
Right, sorry. But part of that expansion story is...
And we're back into it again!
But because it's fascinating, because there's a lot of lessons to be learned about the expansion of enfranchising people and the way that those dynamics can play out and be bad, and the way... and resisting allowing people to partake in voting and representation and shit can cause you a lot of problems. So it's kind of like maybe amnesty isn't a terrible thing, but at the same time, there's plenty of lessons of like letting large foreign populations into your territory that Rome can shed light on.
And again, you're cherry picking ideologies.
Right, that's what I'm saying. There's
a lot more to that.
Right, people point to Rome's like, see, let them in, it's going to fall. It's like, yeah, but at the same time, when they didn't allow the Latin allies to have the vote, they rebelled, and it was lots of social turmoil. Like, if you have a huge population of people who are essentially part of your culture, and living in part of your sphere of influence and shit, but aren't treated the same and don't have the same rights, it causes problems.
Yeah.
History is complicated. You can't just point, people like to cherry pick it, and you kind of have to for certain lessons.
All right, bring it home.
I got no home. I'm just, just saying.
To today, comparisons to today.
Yes, you can do that, but just remember that.
What are they?
Oh, to Rome? Oh, there's plenty, man. But ultimately, I don't think you have to worry about the same kind of downfall, because the powers that Julius sought and took are powers that our president has already had in the beginning. Like, you had to lay down your army to be a consul. The president is already the leader of the military and already has all kinds of powers that they were trying to form together, blah, blah, blah. But societally, there's all kinds of things. Struggles, but it's different because it's different ethnic groups, different technological realities. But so you can draw like kind of broad lessons.
Well, you're making a fantastic point for why it would be a good idea to have everybody conscripted in the military, because then you are all a part of that Roman legion, that original Rome.
No, but that's the military. Like, the Latins didn't want to be part of the military; they wanted to vote for the people that were
it's a
creating
slippery slope.
laws.
I am kind of reversing my position on that mid-sentence in terms of, I don't like the ideology of brainwashing. It is kind of a critical point to being in the military.
Yes.
The idea that you will take orders.
Yeah.
You have to do things for the greater good. But is that necessarily a bad ideology?
Yes. If you think
for the greater good,
if you think that so far America has been a success story, then yes, it's bad ideology, because America has been built.
Depends on what perspective you're looking at it from. I mean, if you're looking at it from America's ability to conquer and control the world, yeah, it's a great success story.
But our ability to go from
militarily, we are dominant.
No,
we are all over the planet.
But we were dominant.
There are 197, 196 countries in the world.
But it is our economic dominance that drove our military dominance. Our ability to produce things drove our ability to produce
it's a happy
tanks.
marriage between the two. One cannot exist without the other.
Yeah, I mean, they can, because they did. That's how it happened. America was lucky to get its independence. We were a ragtag fucking piece of shit military. Didn't even have a navy.
All right,
and in the span of 100 years, we were
maybe
knocking on the door of the empires as an economic rival.
The very first years of the United States, maybe it was about economic thriving, but we jumped our way into war real quick.
No. The next war is 1812 with England. And
40 years.
That was silly.
40 years.
Yeah. But that was a silly war, and we were lucky to get out of that one again too. Like, France wasn't worried about us invading them and
so
encroaching on their colonies and territory.
So we had 40 years with this vast untouched land, or virtually untouched land, that we were able to, just thrive and build economically. And then 40 years in, we're immediately starting shit.
No, because we're not starting the shit. The English were starting shit with us. They were impressing our sailors. They were they were stopping, detaining our ships and stealing our citizens and forcing them to serve in the English Navy. And they're fucking with our shipping. They're picking a fight the whole time.
All right, yeah, maybe we didn't start it, but we were immediately in shit.
We totally started the Spanish-American War.
But that initial drive to start a military, and then we used our drive and our ability to start a military to conquer the rest of this land.
Well, I don't think we
by
had,
force.
Yeah, but I don't think we had all volunteer standing military until much later in our history. I couldn't tell you the exact date, but I think for the most part it was like conscripts. I'm sure there's always been an ability to volunteer.
Always, yeah.
But I think like the majority of the forces were still. I don't know. That'd be interesting to
do
look
some research
into.
on that. Yeah.
But I know we were definitely a economic power before we were a military power.
Yeah, for 40 years.
No.
I mean, it was a building stage.
Even when we started picking fights locally, we weren't like a national powerhouse, but we were still becoming. We were economic players on the world stage. Like our market was big. People cared about our market and our goods and us buying goods long before.
And again, this is cherry picking, certain things that caused us to come up. I mean, there are a lot of other reasons. It is a desirable place to come. I mean, think about
we had a lot of
the height
resources.
of immigration. Throughout the early 1800s, late 1700s.
Right. Well, but England doesn't necessarily have a lot of resources, but they had at least at a certain point that similar kind of culture to high risk, high reward, capitalistic kind of individualistic society to a certain degree. I mean, not as much as us, because they were still classist and they were still, they were still very much connected to the idea of a king, and that has a tendency to kind of unify a culture, because the king is above politics because he doesn't run. He's usually not political.
Mandated by God.
Yeah, I mean, once you reach a certain point, I mean, of course, the early English history, the kings changed all the time, and you fought civil wars over who was going to be the king. But, well, I guess then that would have been after the time.
The still of royal blood, and
Industrial
again,
Revolution and shit. That had been past the.
How did we not see
times.
through that as peoples? People of royal blood fighting each other for control. It's like, well, okay, what exactly does this mean?
You get to a point where it's just they just had the power, and you just couldn't fight it.
the caste systems. Caste systems are a very ancient way of breaking down societies that are still in practice in a lot of places today.
Yeah, and a part of
you are here and you don't move out of this spot.
Right. Well, and a part of America's rapid rise to prominence has to do with, not having a class system. You're free to just move up through society.
Right.
That drives a certain excited churn to society and to business and to inner workings and interactions between people and the economy. So that's why we're a little more dynamic, I think.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, it cannot be understated the raw resources that we had here.
What the fuck were we arguing about here?
I don't know.
Oh, the driving forces of what made America great.
Oh, well, there's plenty.
But you can't break it down to just purely military and economic.
No, but I will say.
I think those are big.
I will say
in the pie chart, they're probably big pieces.
I will say that we were an economic power. Our military didn't make us an economic power. It helps ensure that
happy
power.
Marriage.
Oh yes, they go hand in hand, but one begat the other. Our ability to produce.
What came first, the chicken or the egg? You really can't put your finger on that. I mean, America's our pride as a country was our ability to form together as a militia-style military.
But there are firm dates
beat back the Brits.
But there's firm dates. We didn't beat back the Brits. We got lucky that the French had been fighting a war with them, and then we convinced the French to harass them with their powerful navy.
Right. But I'm trying to tell you that the average citizen walking around in the mid 1700s was probably like, America. Fuck yeah.
Well, yeah, but we're talking about reality here, and you can definitely measure when our economic influence was affecting world markets, and you can tell when our military influence was affecting geopolitical structures, and one happens before the other.
Right.
We were a big.
I don't know nearly enough.
We were a big,
resource-rich
of
America. Doesn't sound like you do either.
Or a homogeneous marketplace, a huge marketplace that isn't Europe and isn't divided by a bunch of borders, massive landmass full of resources. It was all the same regulatory code, all the same government. You know, to do business here, you dealt with one government. To do business in Europe, you got to deal with the Prussians, you know, depending on the time period. You know, the Russians, the French, the Spanish. Yes. And it was all America, and it was all our shit, and you could trade it all in our currency.
So it made us a powerhouse.
Huge powerhouse, yeah. Long before we had tanks and shit. And we weren't really a powerhouse.
I see your argument here. You may have something.
That history
and granted,
of
I am an idiot, so
global.
I don't know what I'm talking about. I have a vague view, a very smoky mirror view of
right. Oh, I'm sure I'm getting lots of facts, individual minutia wrong, but fairly.
The broad strokes you're getting.
Mm-hmm. I'm fairly certain I have that.
I got some broad strokes for you.
Yeah. What's our time at right here?
1:53.
Almost 2 hours. Should we button it up? You got another topic in you?
I had the one that I started on, but we digressed.
Maybe want to save it for another one.
Tend to happen.
Yeah.
I suppose we could button it up here.
I say we
it's been a good, decent one.
I say we just don't even. I say we just say fuck it. We don't even listen to it. Let's just post it right now.
Just do it.
Let's get offline. Just put it on there and just tell people that we want to listen to it to go to ACoupleOfNobodies.com.
I can't set that up just yet. I have to
make
the
you don't have
website
a player or whatever.
Yeah, I haven't made it postable.
Well, where could we? I guess we just put it on Facebook or something.
Yeah. Turn it auto file. I'd have to look into that a little bit, but.
Oh hey, that worked last time. Did I have to go? Did I have a cord in my car? Do you have a? Anyways.
I have a card.
Let's talk about this after.
Anywho.
This has been a couple of nobodies.
Yeah. I don't even know how to sign this bitch off. Yeah.
We are interested parties. No, I don't know.
Well, that's it, folks. Yeah, hope you enjoyed it.
We have been.
If you actually were able to withstand our ignorance for 2 hours, bravo.
Yeah, you poor bastards. Oh, comment or whatever. If you got an idea for something for us to talk about or a point you want to make, put it up. And we'll either respond to it or, you know, I'm sure it'll spawn a topic or something.
Probably not, though.
Yeah, if you're obnoxious, no, we'll just make fun of you.
Yeah, exactly. Or if you want to see a float lab in Columbus, that'd be super. Let us know. I might get the wheels working on that.
Sensory deprivation.
Yeah, that'd be sweet. Anyway,
nice.
Yeah, hope you liked it. If you didn't, what the fuck do we know? We're a couple of nobodies.